Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review Gem, Season 1, Episodes 1 through 3. So, did I find the show to be truly, truly outrageous? Or was I to have gone on and just be outraged? And found my way to just want to quickly compare the show to a number of things beyond talking about it so swiftly and so quickly, which I'm going to go on and do now. So, in all honesty, while I was starting to watch this show, the things that just kind of popped in there was stuff like the movie Xanadu. I don't know why, but I was to more and more just be like, yeah, like Xanadu is kind of like this singing movie, and and there's just a lot of flashy visuals kind of going in on there, and like I don't know, like that's what kind of first came to mind, and really enjoying stuff like Xanadu. But then also very much understanding why like stuff like Hannah Montana was so popular, because man, some attorney should have slapped a lawsuit on Hannah Montana so quickly, because man, like Gem and Hannah Montana, one and the same. Like that looks so much the same exact kind of show. But I guess nobody really thought about that. But then so also, it reminds me of stuff like Josie and the Pussycats that eventually had its like live action film and so many runs of animated stuff and whatever. To make me much more so realize that it seems that people at some point in time want to go on and see a show or movie or whatever about a band, whether they're to have just meager beginnings but eventually build to something, or eventually go on to like just have some kind of mark on history regardless of how everything is to all just turn out. But so through these 3 episodes, I honestly feel in the pilot there's truly not enough going on that doesn't ultimately feel like so many like generic novel mobile games that I've ever gone on and needed to have read in my life, because at some point a YouTube video game channel was to have existed in my life. And I needed content also. I really did. But so I would go on, and after the pilot episode, I started to realize that the show did have a much more entertaining value, even though it was really just through the other 2 episodes be this suspense builder. And also, like, I started to much more realize, like, shouldn't they have Zipper and or Misfits, like, shouldn't they have gone on and gotten arrested every single time they were to have like broke into these parties or had these explosives or attempted murdered so many people, bloodied and bleeding along the way? No? No morale for this story? What the heck, show? What the heck? But hey, I gotta say that in all honesty, like, this show had me hooked and invested, and I could say at the end of the day that Gem, for how it may even feel like a very dated show, this show, regardless, was okay. Um, really, I can possibly go on and understand why so many things came from this show when I wasn't to have legitimately sat down and watched a good percentage of it, because at some point this may have just been a show that had missed um, my generation of viewership, because legitimately I had probably so many other things that I would have rather have gone on and watched when I was a kid, or been able to find and in my time check out. But hey, at least I'm going on and finding some hidden treasure-ish like content that at some point did have a seemingly big influence on stuff going forward. So yeah, so like the very first pilot episode is to go on and at first showcase the Gem character, but then tell you how she got to that point, the buildup of this kind of a very usual uh like character called Synergy that goes on and is to give uh Jerica this hologram ability, as well as her being able to change her looks to go from this Clark Kent looking character to then being Supermanish. As far as having seemingly this music that everyone is to be really into. And the thing of it is, like, we have Gem and this hologram like ability that at the end of the day does not exactly save the day. We really just have Rio needing to come in to figure out ways to help out our band or Gem hologram star. And I think also, like, I feel that this show would probably have been better suited for me to have gone on and watch a whole entire season and figured out a way for them to cleverly write in the hologram stuff a little bit more. Because when I was to start to go more and more through these episodes, I was like, okay, like, I think they're starting to use the hologram stuff a little bit in a smarter way. But then again, Rio is still coming in to lend a hand consistently. And so, yeah, so there were some problems with this show. But at the end of it all, yeah, like, this show was this show was okay. It was entertaining. I think it's about that time to just break this all down. Um, so these people have to deal with so many chaotic events, crashing of parties, burning down of houses, and eventually needing to figure out how Gem and the holograms are to possibly beat out this Misfits band that at some point go on and have this Mischief song that actually is pretty catchy. It really is. Um, like, I was starting to get surprised by this music for, yeah, how very simple it is, because man, do they just really overuse like the title of the song over and over and over again, like a very loopish like thing. But I get it, like, for a show that is to just figure out ways to eat up time by having like kind of music videos being placed within it. Like, the music part of it is to like it's to try as much as possible to put its best forward, but like, really, like, you're not completely going into Gem for just the music, right? Like, you're going in for the story as well, for whatever it gives you. So with that said, but yeah, but this show still okay. um Throughout these 3 episodes, this show, if you do not know, is to be available on Tubi, Tubi. I'm otherwise surprised by the fact that it seems Tubi is legitimately having some Easter eggs within that app, because there, in fact, it's been a long time since we're actually wanting to go into Tubi to watch a lick of anything, because most of the time what was on Tubi was just these kind of E or F list like horror movies that I think nobody really wanted to check out or see or whatever. Like, it seems that now Tubi is realizing, like, yeah, we should actually uh find content that people will actually retroactively come to our app for, instead of going on and just kind of compiling content that makes no rational sense for why it's really legitimately there. Like, there's a lot of exclusive stuff on there, but again, nothing that would retroactively bring people to that app. So they had to just kind of figure something out. And it seems like they're going on and putting out a more substantial app for me to want to go on and consistently come back to and check out a lot of content of. So I think it's about the time to go into the spoiler time. So let's go on and let's do the dance, and then let's go on and pause this video to get out my character list, because this is an animate thing. A cast list will be pointless. And this time I had to go on and just kind of possibly question whether or not I needed like Cliff Note-ish like things, because I was possibly thinking that a show like this could have gone in one part of my head and gone quickly out, so I had to just go on and do a little bit of Cliffy Notes, just so that way I can kind of figure out a way of how to break this all down. So with that said, let's pause here, because it is spoil time. Spoil time. It's about that time. I'm going to spoil these 3 episodes. All right. I think I'm seriously going to go on and probably end up getting that silly Misfits Mischief song probably stuck in my gosh darn head for the next week. I'm going to go on and do so many other reviews, and then I'm going to be like, Mischief, we're doing Mischief. Or whatever the lyrics of that song was. Man, like, I was just like, this should not be that catchy. But it probably is going to have to be. So, in the very beginning of this pilot episode, we have people piling out of a car that are all these bandmate celebrity characters. Rio and his purple hair, Kimber, and Aja, and whoever is to ultimately also be a part of this band, as well as then Jem is to make her way out of this band to be the only one thrusted with a number of microphones and tape recorders to be asking her questions, and the only thing that she is real concerned of, instead of answering any number of these people, is to reflect upon how this all started. It started, bizarrely of all things, at a funeral. So Jem goes on to have lost a father, and at this funeral, she is to be met by a guy named Mr. Raymond, who it seems is to make his way to Jerica to try and figure out a way to tell her, it's like, well, hey, like, I'm here for you if you need anything. Like, don't call me Mr. Raymond, call me Eric. Like, trying to really maybe figure out a way to like manipulate this girl, or like we start to eventually realize more and more like how this guy is so greedy and corrupt, and is to try to figure out some way for him to win out of all of every scenario. So Rio goes on and is looking at Raymond. It's like, well, hey, like I have her. Like, everything's fine, Raymond. And like we have Jerica that's like, oh yeah, I'll see you soon, Raymond. So we come to find, after Jerica's father passing, that he had left her some inheritance. The Starlight Music Company, she's to own seemingly half of it because Raymond owns the other half. And then also the Starlight House. So, bizarrely, every word has to just have the word Starlight in it for some goofy reason. I don't know why. And I don't know why Starlight is just such a thing. Maybe because of the star logo that's beyond the... I don't get it. I don't know what Starlight really has. I don't know. Like, maybe it was just a trigger name for them to just like, man, we got to put Starlight on everything. Like, at some point they go on and they have a mansion. They're like, oh, this is Starlight Mansion. Anyways, so within this Starlight House, we start to see uh, Jerica and a number of the girls, and they're all cleaning this house. Rio is getting this ladder to adjust this chandelier, and all of a sudden everything goes horribly awry, as if this is like the Tom Hanks money pit movie, where we would come to find as Rio is to be adjusting this chandelier. All of a sudden, like it gives him a little jolt of electricity. All of a sudden, Rio falls in this vacuum that explodes, and the pipes burst. All kinds of chaotic things are just all happening all at once. Someone sits at a chair, the chair completely just snaps into pieces, and they're like, "Man, what a dump!" So Jerica goes on to start to talk to Mrs. Bailey, and Mrs. Bailey's like, "Well, hey, like it seems in the past, whenever your father would go on and need a bit of money, he would make his way to Starlight Music to just be like, hey man, like where's my money?" So Jerica's like, "Well, yeah, like that might be a plan here to like just kind of strategize and figure out how we can like make the best out of our situation." So Jerica goes on to meet Mr. Raymond's assistant, and it seems that Mr. Raymond's assistant has only been there for like a past week. So it's like, okay, all right. So Jerica just goes on and just barges into Mr. Raymond's office and is to be there, just be like, hey man, where's my money? Like, if anything, I own half of this company. Like, why aren't I getting any kind of like royalties, or why aren't I getting any why aren't I giving any kind of ownership money from this? So Raymond is to go on to instead show off the fact that he is to have this new band called the Misfits. So we all of a sudden have the Misfits that are starting to sing this song Out of My Way. And Jericho's just like, I don't give a shit about this other band. Like, where's my money? Yeah, where is this? Where is the greenbacks? So Raymond is stating that the reason for the Misfits being involved here is for him to put this whole battle of the bands together. And so if Raymond is to have his own band, he would naturally assume that Jerica is going to have her own band, which it seems that she doesn't. Like, it doesn't seem that she is to have been an agent, to have hired some band yet, but eventually she will quickly come up with one. So Jerica goes home to come to find there is some secret admirer leaving her a gift of earrings. Naturally, having the rest of the girls looking on as Jerica is to put these earrings on and be like, oh, it must have been from Rio, your lover. And so instead, it actually is to be coming from a character known as Synergy, which appears and is to have this unusual get up about her. Very superhero-ish like, but also like this show almost like so much reminds me of like the old-fashioned Wonder Woman things, or also like Captain Planet in some ways or another. Like really a lot of like Captain Planet going on here. Um to where I don't think remembering seeing a lot of action going on in the whole Captain Planet show. But like let's go on and let's just continue to just talk about what happens and transpired here, because I'm going on all these tangents of all these other shows. So let's get back to it. So Synergy is to talk with Jerica here, and Jerica eventually goes on to become Jim, if I haven't stated this anywhere. So Synergy tells Jerica to like, well, hey, like read the instructions in the earrings and like make your way to meet with me at this location. As all the girls are to go on and realize that Synergy isn't really there, like as if they're talking to a ghost. Ooh, oh, ghost. So they make their way to this location of the Star Drive-In. Everything just has to have the word Star on it. Why? So we would come to realize that I guess uh, Jerica's father, I guess, owns this drive-in. Hence the mysterious Batcave thing, like that eventually comes with it. So Synergy is telling Jerica to just drive through this wall and meet up with her. So, like, wait a minute, like, we can't just drive through this wall. We'll destroy this car. So, Jerica's like, you know what? Like, I just believe what she's telling me. Like, I just feel like. So, they drive through the wall, and the wall is just this illusion. It's not really there. So, they're just like, oh, okay, all right. So, we all of a sudden see this massive, huge computer like thing that has all these computer keyboard, or not computer keyboard, all these um like piano keys and all of a sudden has all these like weird flashing lights on it. It's freaking weird. Uh, but it also reminds me a lot of those like 80s movies that are to go on and just imagine what a alien ship looks like, and it like a lot of those visuals of early spacecraft stuff looks just so uh like, man, they must have just kind of took a number of stuff and just kind of all smashed it together to make it look futuristic, but then also you could see where they just kind of took a lot of like tech stuff and just all like combined it together and to make it look so makeshift that it had to look futuristic. So that's kind of what they did here, in all honesty. So Synergy is to go on and explain that she's going to give Jem the ability to be able to change how she looks or how other people looks. Like change how her and other people look. So again, like this is to all be built off these holograms and these illusion like tactics. So and it's all coming from these simple earrings. So we then end up getting like as if these characters are on Price is Right and like, hey, you've won this brand new car and all of these instruments and all of these clothes. Like because we go on to find that these certain rooms within this whole drive-in all of a sudden has like these huge things that can go on and be at Gem and the Holograms possibility of use here. So we then have Jerica realizing like, well, hey, like we need to go on and take all of this and turn around and become a band so we can be the ones facing off against Misfits. So we have to figure out how we can go on and like create music right away. So they go on to perform only the beginning and they're doing this whole music video like thing. It's so cool and awesome. And so after the whole performance, we then have Jem who turns back into Jerica. So we then have Raymond who is so upset by the fact that Jem and the holograms are going on and performing because like, hey man, like I had this Misfit band, like you guys have no real permission of performing here and this and that. And so like who had gone on and told you you could perform? And so then Jerica shows up and is to like, well, I did. I gave him the permission. And so Raymond is just like, oh, okay, well, Jerica, well, like since you have your band and I have mine, like how about we have a bet going where like if I win, then I get control of the company, but if you win, you get control of the company. And we are to assume that this is going to be so absurdly milked out that we're going to take a ton of time to see who actually wins this bet. To the point where, like, so many things are going to be possibly tied to this bet also. Like, we have Mr. Sam's that comes in here and is like, well, hey, I'll give you guys a contract and I'll give you guys this mansion and this and that. And like it ends up being that just Mr. Sam's likes Jim the hologram so much so that he just kind of gives him all of these things regardless. But anyways, uh, we turn around and have the Misfits go on and steal all of Jim and the hologram's instruments and drive away within this van to just be like, well, hey, you guys can't go on and do any performances if you don't have the instruments to do so. So, like, the Misfits think that they're really clever here. So, Jem and her band, like, go on to chase off after them, and they accidentally, like, almost go off this curve while doing so. Excuse me. Going on to then have Jem the holograms needing to have some kind of assistance or they'll fall off this cliff. Any little thing that they are to try to do, it seems that they fall further and further into this cliff. So we luckily have Jim who's realized like, oh, okay, well here's the time to touch my ear and have Synergy figure out a way to help us out. So Synergy appears to Jem or appears to be Jem and is to see that Rio is to be on the road, uh, close to where Jerica and the gems are to, or Jerica and the holograms are to be. So Jem kind of waves Rio down and it's like, hey man, like, if anything, you need to help these girls because they're stuck almost like falling to their deaths of this cliff. So Rio ends up grabbing this rope and ends up pulling the car away. So now Raymond is to have this newspaper and just be like, hey, like, Misfits, like, you've gone on and had this $1 million newspaper promoting Jem and this band, and like you've gone on and just like just created this buzz for them, and like, man, like you're doing the wrong things here. So we have the Misfits as a counter to what Raymond is to go on and say, just be like, well, hey man, like we're gonna just be winning in it, and is winning is everything to us. So like, if anything, like they start singing this song, and all of a sudden, like within this video, like I think it kind of gets really interesting because they're like they're doing all of these like sports themed or casino themed and like this game show, they're winning at everything. And Raymond's like, you know what, if you like keep this kind of song up, like I can see how you're gonna go on and be very successful someday. Probably not today, but probably not tomorrow. But so we then turn around and we're back at the Starlight House. So we all of a sudden have all these girls that are pitching in all this little money here and there from all these odd jobs that they had gone on and done. I'm not going to go on and explain every single one of these girls' names because that would probably take way too much research on my mind. And then also the only real focus here is on a girl named Ashley, who eventually becomes part of the Misfits team instead of the Gems and Holograms group. She starts to really run away from that whole scene and makes her way to the Misfits. So we go on to have all these girls and they're talking about this honor jar and they're hoping to get $30 more for this fridge. So Ashley is looking at this jar and just be like, money, I need some, what am I going to do here? So transition. And so Raymond is going on and calling this guy who ends up being called the Zipper or just Zipper. And Raymond is calling up this guy. It's like, hey man, like, I need you to scare somebody for me. And the Zipper is like, yeah, like that's what I do best. I scare people. All right. So we transition back to have Ashley, who is stealing some money from the money jar, and she ends up quickly getting caught by Jerrica and a number of girls. Shouldn't have Ashley have been able to have heard, I don't know, anybody coming into this room before taking upon herself to just yoink? No? Well, that's clearly on her. Like, that's the stupidity of, like, not hearing the clickety click of footsteps. That's really just her bad. So Ashley is to go on and be like, whoops, well, like, I guess I won't be going on and spending this money then. And Jerrica is just like, well, yeah, like, we have to go on and figure out some kind of punishment for you. And Jerrica's like, well, yeah, you didn't take money from me, but you took money from the girls. So they have to figure out what your punishment is going to be. So, like, we're going to go into some other room and kind of piece together what we're going to do as far as punishment. So Ashley comes to find out that her punishment is to come up with the $30 to get this fridge. And Ashley's like, well, how am I going to go on and get this money? And for some reason, I mentally paused at this moment of show to immediately think of all the adult-like jokes that I could just be coming up with right now. Excuse me, Mr. Pizza Man. I don't have the $30. How am I going to pay for this pizza? How can I possibly come up with some way? Bizarrely, that's just the gutter of mind of which that I went to. When this girl's like, how could I possibly pay for this $30? How could I come up with that money? Anyways, so transition to Rio and Jerrica, who are just smooching it up, and all the other girls kind of off in the distance going, they're kissing, maybe they have cooties. And Jerrica just being like, hey kids, just like grow up, come on. Like, if anything, me and Rio don't spend nearly enough time together, and also like this is also a certain kind of audience show, so it's not like we're gonna go on and see both Jerrica and Rio just bumping the night, if you know what I mean. Finally, getting to really like have Jerrica appreciate how Rio is consistently saving her life through every single one of these episodes, it seems. But so Rio is going on and explaining to Jerrica, it's like, well, yeah, I don't think that you guys are going to have the ability of actual electricity in this house. Like, maybe I should go on and just kind of spend the night. But hey, I'll just kind of be on the couch. Like, you won't even know I'm here. And Jericho's like, no, it's fine. Like, if anything, like, I think you can just go on home. So Rhea's like, oh, okay, all right. But hey, hopefully nothing happens to just make me regret this decision. Hopefully no one breaks into this place and just has me go on and state that, man, I should have just been there. Because Rio can't be everywhere to just save Jem and the holograms instead of having them save themselves from their predicaments. So, next up we get Zipper breaking into this house, going through the glass, and just papaya. So, Zipper makes his way through the house. Eventually, the girls are to hear that Zipper is to be making his way on home as if he is to have been invited. So, Jessica and the girls make their way to find Zipper, and within all this chaos, we bizarrely have a person that has a lantern in their hand. Let me say that again. They have a lantern in their hand. I guess these people have never gone on and heard of a flashlight or a cell phone. Cell phones didn't exist. I know, it's a joke. It's a laugh. Because legitimately, I know a number of people would go on and probably have the flashlight on their cell phone, just like, hey, I can't see through my house. I walk around my house in the pitch black darkness. Like I know my house, or I just know how to walk through a place in the darkness fairly well. And I don't know why that is, but I can just have that ability to do so. It's weird. But so anyways, but I would never want to have that thing of a task challenged upon me because I know I'd F up so many times. And so moving on. So again, lantern breaks. What is this? The 1800s? The lanterns are coming! The lanterns are coming! The lanterns are breaking for some bizarre reason, but again, it's all to put forth that there is a fire going ablaze upon this entire house. This house is burning up. What are we gonna do? Oh no, it's to be continued. That's what's gonna go on. And then they have this whole stretch of a thing. Just like, hey, what's gonna happen on the next week's episode? Because this is just a pilot. They spend a lot of time on that whole recapping of what's going to happen next week. I'm like, wow, like, this show was just like, hey, man, we just need to do just enough to figure out how we can entice people to come on to next week. Because if anything, like, the following episodes, like, they really kind of rush the whole recapping things and what happens to next week kind of things. Even some episodes, like, they don't really have any effort of really going on and giving you like a recap of the following week. They just kind of like, hey man, we'll just recycle one of the other songs to just like eat up more time. And I'm like, really? Like, you think that one song is just that banger of a hit that you just need it to be like, yeah, we're just gonna recycle this again. Hopefully you like it. No, I don't. That was actually the worst song choice to have used. What kind of cracker jack thing is that? You know what I'm saying? Moving on. So, episode 2 is to be called Disaster. I wonder why. We could not be thinking that from the pilot episode and seeing a house burning down, that could not at all be a disaster. I think it's an omen. I think it was a good thing. Because if anything, these characters within this episode go from burning house to mansion. And I was like, whoa, like, these people are very much just living it up. Like, they have finally got themselves a piece of the pie. They're moving on up to the east side. Anyways, moving on. That's what I was going with there. So, we all of a sudden see all these older girls grabbing these younger kids and running them out of this house consistently. Like, as if we're seeing, like, this, like, just weird, like assembly line of all of these like older kids with these younger ones, and just like all running out of this place. And so firemen are making their way to this house, and Ashley like scrambles out of the house with the money jar, and Jerica's looking at Ashley. He's like, "Why did you go back for the money jar? Like, if anything, like all that money is not going to be able to buy a house now, is it, Ashley? Is it? It's not even going to be able to have us like rent a motel for the night." Ashley, like, if you could just go on and now just figure out how I can get $200. Forget the $30 business. I need about $200 for the night. Figure out how to make that money. And moving on. So Jerica is looking at Ashley. It's like, you should have not have gone on and got out of your way to risk your life for a jar of money. You should have gone on and figured out like which out of that entire house is to be the most like financially thing that we can go and pawn off to like make the most money out of. And I don't think it would have been that jar of money. You should have looked at all the Van Goghs. I'm sorry, I'm taking too long for this joke. Let's move on. So Jericho realizing because of this horrific event, they need to now realize that they need to turn around and as quickly as possible put together some kind of concert to make some kind of money to help their situation out. So as Jem and the band are to go on and try to put this concert together, the Misfits are to realize, like, well, yeah, like, we should go on and, like, we should follow them and, like, see what they do. And there ends up just becoming this chase as Jerica and the band, they realize, like, oh, yeah, we're being followed by the Misfits. So here's another time where we finally get to see that this whole hologram thing is actually to be put in a good use here, where we have Jericho who's calling upon the earring powers of Synergy to be like, hey man, like, turn our car into a dumpster so the Misfits just drive off and realize, like, oh, well, we lost them. Oh, what are we going to do? But then they end up seeing Rio in his car, and they're just like, well, like, if we couldn't find, like, the girls, then we can just follow that guy. Because, if anything, I'm sure Rio is going to head in the same direction that the girls are going to be at. So, either way, things are going to just hopefully end up coming up Misfit. So, we have Jerica and the band making their way back to Mysterious Drive-In to get a change of clothes and get all the stuff that they need to put this concert together. So we then have them go on and perform Like a Dream. And I was like, okay, this is kind of an unusual song to be singing right now. But so by the end of this whole performance, we then turn around and are to have Jerica desperate to ask Mr. Sams if they can go on and have her and the girls be able to use Mr. Sam's mansion temporarily, even though they didn't win the contest just yet. And the Misfits end up going on to just be like, wait a minute, what? Like, they didn't win the contest yet. They can't just go on and just have this mansion because they don't have a home. Huh. Like, so. And also the Misfits are like, well, yeah, we should go on and we should also, like, get into being living in that mansion also. Like, if they're gonna win, we should have a win. But so Mr. Sam's is like, wait a minute. Like, he's like, hey, I have the mansion. I should be able to control who lives in it besides me and my mistress lover. And so Mr. Sam's is just like, all right, like, I think I'll allow Jerrica and her many foster women to, or ladies or girls or whatever, to live in the mansion. So we have the misfits that end up getting so upset here that the misfits end up going on and they kick Mr. Sam's and they go on to just start bulldozing over people. And again, Rio has to go on and save Jerrica from this bulldozer, as at some point one of the band members are to go on and get the misfit from out of the bulldozer, but then the bulldozer just goes wild and is operating on its own accord. So yeah, everybody's like, hey man, get out of the way of this wild bulldozer. Oh my god. Just again, building up suspense. So Sam's is to go on and state about the whole, like, well, if they win kind of thing. Uh, so Raymond goes on and is with the Misfits, and the Misfits are griping about the mansion, and the Misfits are telling Raymond, it's like, well, hey, you need to do something about this. Like, you need to call somebody and figure out how, like, we can logically uh like get into the mansion as well. And so Raymond is like, oh, whatever. Like, I'll just call my zipper guy, and like the zipper guy will take care of this. So Raymond calls Zipper. It's like, hey, I got another job for you. Hopefully you're not going to mess this one up or really just blow it out of proportion. Blow it out of proportion, because that's foreshadowing what exactly he goes on and does. So Jerrica and her group of people and Mr. Sam's are to make it to the mansion, and like, oh my god, we're gonna rename this Starlight Mansion. It's like Mr. Sam's like, hold on a minute, like, I think I'm gonna be calling it Sam's Mansion or Sam's Club or the Fantastic Sam's, because my place. So the girls are going on and looking into this mansion like, oh my god, it's so big. Oh, tears and whatever. So Rio calls the gals and it's like, well, hey, like, did you guys forget about the whole magazine layout? Like, hey, like, we have all these people here and like we need to get this magazine going. And so Jerrica's like, okay, so she switches into Gem, and so we go on and have the girls and they're doing this photo shoot. And so Ashley is talking to the girls and is saying like, well, hey, like, since I saved uh this money jar, and also since we're in this lap of luxury, like, do I really need to go on and still make up that $30? And the girls are like, well, heck yeah, you are. So the Misfits are going on to figure out a way to get into this mansion, and they're stuck at the pearly gates. They're stuck at these gates. Like, hey man, we need to get in here. So Ashley makes her way to this gate also, and is to see the Misfits there. She's like, well, hey guys, I'll let you in for exactly $30. And Misfits were trying to negotiate, but Ashley was like, $30. Like, come on, like, $30 is not really that unreasonable. But then again, all she has to do is just simply open a door as well. So Anyways, so they negotiate the $30. Ashley lets them in. So Zipper also is to figure out a way to enter this mansion. He enters, just has a good time, putting a stick of dynamite-ish thing underneath some couch. So we would have Jem the Holograms going on and singing this song called Click Clash. Not really a good song out of all the other ones, but hey, like, I guess it's just something quasi good enough. But then all of a sudden, Misfits, like, they crash this whole photo shoot, and they start singing like within this song as well, and we start to see like this battle of brewing between these two bands. So then, of course, Dynamite under the couch. So Raymond is to rush his way to this mansion, realizing that the Misfits are to also be there, and he wants to go on and like protect like his clients. So Raymond's like, "Oh my God, get out of there!" So we have an explosion go off. So Jerica and Mr. Sam's are to just kind of react to this whole event, and really like Mr. Sam's is to look at Jerica and just be like, well, yeah, like it is really good that I feel like I can trust you girls, and realize even more that maybe the reason why you guys had lost your house like must have something to do with Raymond, and I'm starting to feel that he's even more and more shady, as Raymond is to have gone on with these news anchors and say like, well, yeah, like I was just protecting my clients and they just so happened to be here, and this and that, not knowing anything of what was really going on, like trying to protect himself. So Rio ends up asking, uh, no, I think this might be Jem and not Jerica here. I'm not quite sure because eventually there is also a hologram of either Jem or Jerica that appears off in the distance at this window, because Rio is going on and asking for either Jem or Jerica, but like, well, hey, where could they be? Like, I hope they're safe. And we see one and the other of them like in this window, just like, hey, yeah, I'm safe. And so Rio's like, oh, thank God. So Sam goes on to introduce the gals to this countess that has this very French name, of course, that I'm not even going to try and pronounce, because why would I want to butcher that today? But I'll just call her the Countess. So the Countess ends up mentioning to Jem and the holograms and everybody. It's like, well, hey, yeah, like I have this party at this yacht. I'm gonna invite you people, obviously, because it seems like you're good people, you're good folk. So the Countess is to also look at people like the Misfits and Raymond, like, hey, you're not coming to my freaking party. So, as well as also the Misfits are to look at the Countess and just want to uh, like just kind of rip into her and just be very upset with her. So the girls are very upset with the Misfits, the girls who were probably some part of this whole agenda here. So the girls are to go on and look at the Misfits and be like, hey, you need to clean up like some of this explosion and chaos and whatever. And the Misfits are just like, no, we're gonna not do any of that. Like, it's not our problem. It's not our home. It's not our mansion. So Jerica switches to Jem, and makes her way with Rio onto this yacht. And consistently, Rio is to more and more like save Jim at certain points. But then also, Rio is to start to almost fall for Jim, as at certain points, Jim is to tell Rio, it's like, oh, hold me. And Rio is like, no, I don't think I should. Like, Jerica is my lover. And, like, even though you probably sound the exact same and you're probably voiced by the exact same actor, like, I don't think I can just so easily just fall in love with Jim as well as also just be thinking about Jerica. But so they go onto this yacht and they're met by a woman named Pierce. Pierce is wanting to go on and like put all these girls in this fashion line, but eventually she's really much more narrowly focused on Jem and having her in a fashion line. But then also, there's a guy named Anthony. Anthony was like, well, yeah, like we should probably go on and put you guys in music video. The more and more Anthony starts talking with one of the bandmates named Shauna, the more he realizes, like, man, do you guys have any kind of like deal going on? Like, you have a music deal or music video deal going on? And like Shauna's just like, no, we don't have anything. And Anthony's like, okay, you're like, all right then. Like, well, like, let's just take advantage of you people. Okay, all right. Like, you guys have never even heard of any of this stuff. All right, like, should I just come up with like some kind of weird tax or something? Yeah, I got to charge you $5,000 for video development fee. Yeah, all right, okay. Editing plus fee. All right, do you know what that is? All right. So we have at one point where Rio and Jem are having this like heart to heart moment, and Rio is like, "No, I don't think I can fall in love with you, Jem, because again, like I'm so loyal to Jerica." And Jem is to almost have a moment where she's like, "You know what? I should probably tell you who I really am." And then all of a sudden, the Misfits crash this party. They're causing all this chaos. They even go further. Uh, to have this whole song about making mischief. Making mischief. It's freaking so much of a hook it is. It really is a song. So the Countess goes on and calls the sailors, the guys manning the ship, the Capitan, and is to hope that these sailor guys can go on and capture these mischief people and put them in the brig. Book 'em, Dano. And so while the sailors are going on and trying to find these mischief characters, the mischiefs have made their way to being able to control this yacht, and they start driving the yacht almost to crash into another boat like thing. So that ends up being yet another to be continued of, oh no, what's going to happen here? Are we going to have another reoccurrence of Titanic all over again? I'll never let go, Jack. I'll never let go. Or in this case, I'll never let go, Rio. I'll never let go. Episode 3, Kimber's Rebellion. For whatever reason or another, they had to do something with the hologram characters because, man, did they just leave them in the lurch so freaking many times to where they just kind of walk all over these band members and just be like, oh, Jem is the only real important thing, and who gives a rip about the keyboardist or the guitarist or the guitarist or the freaking person with the drums? No, like, Jem should be the only one doing interviews and should be only one that we give a rip about when we do music videos. I went too far for that, but let's reel it back in. So Rio is now holding on to Jem as she has kind of slipped off this boat, while this boat is getting course corrected by these sailors. So Rio is to again save Jem here. So as we then have the Countess and a bunch of people is like, well, hey, like the Misfits are the cause of this. Like we need to go on and find them and get them off this boat. But we come to find out that they have made their own little boat to escape, like as if they're rocking off again, like they're Team Rocket or whatever. And so it's like, oh, okay, well, like at least they're freaking off of this boat. Like they've created too much chaos. Like we've almost died because of them. So we have Anthony and Pierce both talking about like, well, hey, yeah, like we need to go on and like come up with a video like right here and now. Like we're making our way to Paris. How about we make a music video there? So Jem is also thinking about like, well, yeah, like we should probably put an album together. But yeah, like, but then like Paris would be just a smart strategy. So Ashley finally does have the $30 and she's touting about how like she has this money. She's like, here you go, everybody. But then eventually the girls are just like, well, how did you earn that $30? And Ashley should be like, like, aren't you happy that I have this money? We can now just buy this fictional fridge that no one should really give a rip about now, should they? But yeah, but the girls are just kind of poking Ashley, just be like, well, how did you get this money? Like, what kind of underhandish waka 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 kind of thing did you freaking, like, how did you get this money? And Ashley is just like, you know what? Like, I don't even care about this anymore. And so she just frustratedly just like, ah, I'm out 5,000. So Jem and the holograms make their way to the studio and like they're going on and banging out yet another hit. So we then go on and also have Misfits that are in the studio, and Raymond is being very crucial about their performance. Like, well, yeah, like you were a little flat there. You were a little this. Like, you should have had this key here. You should have, like, he's going on and adjusting their performance. So Raymond goes on to again end up talking to Zipper. It's like, well, hey, you need to go on and you need to sabotage Jem's video. You need to figure out a way to just ruin their video. So, okay, Zipper, go and do another task that you're probably going to miserably fail at, even though it should be so easy at this point to be able to do so. You just blow everything way out of proportion and you just ruin it all. So, at some point, Raymond should just hire another goon. But anyways, so Anthony is going on and is really so much focused on like what Jem should do with this video, like how she should look and what she should be doing. And like it starts to get to the point where like all the rest of the girls are just like, well, hey, like why are they so focused on Jem? Like when are we ever gonna do anything? So while that's going on, we have Kimber that just kind of walks off, and Zipper is looking at Kimber as like, oh yeah, like I can nab one of these girls, because if one of these girls end up going missing, like they can't do one of the videos. But eventually, Kimber starts talking to Rio, and Rio starts talking about Jerica and Jem and whatever. So Kimber feels that she should go on, and because so much focus is being anything but the rest of the band, Kimber is just starting to get so frustrated that she almost wants to out Jem as being Jerica. But then the rest of the band grabs Kimber. It's like, hey, it's not right for you to reveal that secret to Rio. Like only like Jerica should make that decision. And Kimber's like, you know what, you guys are right, but still, like I'm just so frustrated what's going on here. So Zipper goes on to just be like, well, hey, I guess since that failed, like, what should I do next? So he looks at this top of the building and he's like, uh-huh. And we're just supposed to naturally assume we know exactly what that means by him just looking at a building going, uh-huh. So, ah, I need to go there. So we have the music video, and it's Twilight in Paris, which is it's a decent song, which of course is to be performed supposedly by Jem and the Holograms, but probably more than likely just mostly just focusing on Jem probably again. So Zipper is going on and is making his way to the tippy top of this building, and is to take this crowbar to this gargoyle. Man, if only we could have had Keith David just turn into one of the gargoyles and do the da 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 da. This would have been a lot quicker ending show. But no, I'm throwing in a gargoyle Disney reference joke, anyways. But no. So Zipper goes on and it's to break off this gargoyle to make it go flying and hopefully kill all of these Jem and band members all at once. So this show would just be wrapping up within this third episode, but for all for naught. So Rio again saves the girls. What a massive coinky dink. So the girls end up realizing, oh my god, that's that Zipper guy. Like, so that was the guy who tried to burn down our house before. So finally, we go on to have all the girls going on and be cleaning house as Ashley goes on and decides, like, you know what, I don't want anything to do with you people. She leaves. So Ashley goes on to meet with this bouncer at this bar who doesn't want to go on and let her in. But Ashley's like, hey man, I'm wanting to meet with these Misfits girls. The Misfits sort of realize, oh yeah, like we gave you $30 before. So the girls are like, yeah, I think we can use this girl for something. So they bring her into this bar, this unsavory place. So, but they tell her it's like, well, yeah, like we're gonna use you. We're gonna figure out how to, and like they're telling her kind of all this stuff, like all these, like, hey, if you want something, you can just take it for yourself, and this and that. So we have the Countess going on and talking to Jem about, like, well, hey, yeah, like, I definitely want to go on and give you and you alone only a clothing line, and the rest of the band is just like, well, only her. And then the Countess is like, oh yeah, I guess I should be figuring out how to get clothing lines to all of you other people. So Rio goes on to just get, like, kind of so frustrated that because Jem and like the rest of the girls are going on and like they're going into this location, they're shopping and whatever, and Rio leaves, and so Jem turns back into Jerrica thinking that Rio is going to be there, so like they can have these romantic moments together, but Rio is left. So the girls are telling Jerrica, it's like, well, hey, how about we go on and just kind of like just go uh, being a tourist and shopping and whatever, and it'll do you some good. So by the time the girls get back from Paris, they realize that the Misfits have really kind of gained some ground. There seems to be the mischief. We're doing mischief. Kind of playing on this boombox somewhere, and we're starting to see all these posters and Misfits plastered everywhere. It's like, man, like they've really gone on and really impressed this town for some reason. Like people are really going on and really join this band. So Jem and the Holograms need to realize that they need to turn around and do another song called Getting Down to Business, which I think this tune ends up getting reused again by the end of this episode. Just like, yeah, you guys thought this song was so good that we need to use it twice. And I was like, no, you don't. The song is garbage. Like they end up using one of the later songs and they end up repeating it. Like I don't know if I think it might have been Getting Down to Business, but like if anything, like there's another one that ends up being I Got My Eyes on You. That happens also later in this episode. Moving on. So we have Kimber that is to go on and get just so frustrated that Kimber makes her way to Raymond. And Raymond is to try to convince Kimber, it's like, you know what, Kimber, like, you are a beautiful woman. Like, maybe you really need to go on and become a solo artist. Maybe you need to branch away from Jem and the Holograms. Maybe you need to be your own girl. And Raymond is like, what do you think, Kimber? Kimber's like, I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I don't know. So but if anything, Kimber wanted like Raymond to like, hey man, how about like you and the Misfits, how about you just kind of lay off? So come to find out, Jerrica is to get a phone call for Jem to do some interview. And it's going to only be Jem. Like, I think Jerrica tries to like finagle or figure out like, well, hey, like, can I go on and have it be me in the band? But like, it seemed that only at first is only the real interest of Jem. So Kimber at that point just gets so upset. She's like, you know what? Like, I'm freaking out of here. Like, I'm bouncing. I'm deucing. She goes on and she's crying and she's driving away. So the rest of the band goes on to feel so bad at this point that Jerrica and the band calls to adjust the interview to have the whole band do the interview, or like it's just not going to work. So they agree to have the whole band do the interview. So the whole band needs to figure out a way for them to talk to Kimber so they can do the interview. So they go to the KMAX radio station that it seems that they figure out that Kimber is too lucky to have listened to. So the girls go onto this radio station to speak with this DJ and they convince him to do all this. So the girls state to Kimber that like they're sorry and like she's she's like just as important as any of the other people in this band, and so like, hey Kimber, like come on home, come back, like come to do this interview so we can all make some money. So the girls come home and so they're thinking like, well, like did Kimber hear her on the radio? Like you think that she's gonna come back? You think that she's gone on and made a solo career and she's like a Justin Timberlake kind of character? But then Kimber is like, no, like I made my way back. Like, so let's go on and let's do this interview because just tears in their eyes, part two. So when the gals meet up at this interview, Rio ends up kind of uh taking I think either Jerrica or Jem aside and is to possibly go on and talk to her about quitting. like, wait a minute, Rio, you're not really gonna quit, are you? And so Rio's like, I don't know, I don't know. So we have the Pierce interview. So eventually, like, the Misfits are trying to figure out a way to kind of break into the studio, and they also use Ashley to be able to do so. So the Gem and Hologram Band are going on and performing I Got My Eyes on You, and we start to realize that this video seems to be about both Gem and Rio and like their romance together, but like it's very weird because like Rio is kind of mixed up between the Bruce Wayne and Batmanish character, just like, oh, who am I gonna fall for? They're both hot. They're the exact same person, Rio. Why can't you figure that out? Why is it so hard to figure out that Clark Kent and Superman are the same guy? It's freaking it's freaking the glasses. How is it that people get so confused over the gosh darn glasses? Why? Why is that so hard? Because the guy almost has, like, yeah, he might have, like, different, like, slicked back hair when he's Superman, and he's kind of just whatever, kind of ruffly, for Clark Kent hairstyle, but same freaking guy. He has the same build. Like, Superman isn't anywhere more muscular than Clark Kent is. No. Moving on. So Ashley goes in to the studio and is to distract the security guard for the Misfits to make it into the interview. So the Misfits enter the interview, and while like Jim and the holograms are getting questioned here, and it is kind of funny because we're having some ironic moments where the Misfits are saying like, "Well, I'm not loud," as they're yelling right in the interview. So we have the interviewer that's like, "Well, hey man, we need to roll this to commercial." Because if anything, like, we didn't want the Misfits here, we just wanted Jim the holograms. So the Misfits end up getting dragged off by these security guys. And so at one point, like, I was like, God dang, because one of the Misfits slaps the Pierce girl. So we would all of a sudden come to find that this chain events of things all of a sudden has a number of these set pieces all start to collapse all around Gem, it seems, and they're to almost burst into flame, and we're to be like, oh no, what is this chaos event going to lead us to? And it's to be another to be continued, wrapping this whole thing up. I'm going to try to get out of here so I can go on and put this video out for the day. Thank you for hearing anything that I am to go on and state here. Thank you for listening to this video. I really do go on and appreciate it, even though at a lot of points it's just kind of me recapping this whole ordeal. But then also, there's often times where I'm trying to figure out how I can, like, kind of have some kind of commentary and whatever at certain points. I know that this one may have not have really legitimately been ones where I was really kind of picking and choosing for future stuff, but I'm also hoping that these certain kind of random ideas that I'm having lately of just certain contents will also just pan out. I would hope, but then again, also I could possibly crash and burn on any number of these things. So, but again, I always like to just be honest about like everything that I'm just kind of thinking in my brain. Um, for every day that I'm just kind of doing this, like figuring out what I'm gonna probably plan out in the future and all these just kind of certain projects. Um, I feel at some point I want to go on and try and figure out how um best to approach trying to do more supernatural like content, not the supernatural show. Like going into much more supernatural genre stuff, even though I'm sure a lot of that stuff isn't legitimately popular, but because I feel like there's a small genre of stuff that is actually popular um, on YouTube, and more than likely uh, a supernatural genre stuff, or even like the horror genre as a whole. Like, if you were to probably go on and just do just one movie genre, then I think you'll probably be really successful at it. Um, but then again, like that also is to just be like a toss up. Like you're better off as trying to put as much variety, but then again, also like uh, trying to not make too much of just wild pitches and whatever. Uh, because at some points, yeah, like I feel that I have like action movies or whatever are probably my easy go tos. But then also like I'll just branch out and just do weird content like this, or I'll try um shows which that I barely know much about and just kind of feel it out. Um, to just kind of take the risk once I am to finally like see what uh does well on the channel, or hopefully does better than what prior videos have been going on lately. But anyways, let's get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. All right, buddy.